Welcome to today's episode, a deep dive into the global chaos ignited by what some are now calling Liberation Day. That's the name given to former President Donald Trump's sweeping and highly controversial global tariff policy. It was pitched as a bold move to free America from unfair trade practices, but instead, it's triggered a wave of economic disruption both at home and abroad. The fallout? A tumbling stock market, historic job cuts, and a cascade of mass layoffs that have left both economists and everyday workers reeling. The numbers are staggering. March recorded the highest job loss rate in years, and consumer costs are rising sharply. Entire industries, especially those reliant on global supply chains, like clean energy and agriculture, are feeling the pressure. And even staunch Republican allies are starting to question Trump's economic strategy. And this isn't just about trade policy, it's about leadership. Trump's erratic decision-making has added fuel to the fire. Reports reveal that he's been firing national security personnel based on advice from none other than conspiracy theorist Laura Loomer. Yes, the same Loomer banned from multiple social media platforms for spreading misinformation. When national security meets conspiracy theories, the results are, predictably, chaotic. But amidst the chaos, there's a glimmer of hope. In Wisconsin, democracy scored a powerful win. Judge Susan Crawford, backed by a coalition of grassroots activists, defeated her MAGA-aligned opponent in a crucial election for the state Supreme Court. This wasn't just a courtroom victory, it was a turning point in the fight for voting rights, reproductive freedom, and the future of democracy in a deeply divided America. Crawford's win sends a clear message. Grassroots activism works. Despite big money pouring in from high-profile donors like Elon Musk, everyday people showed up, knocked on doors, made calls, and ultimately shifted the tide. It's a lesson for the entire nation. Change begins at the local level, and the battle for democracy is far from over. Now let's zoom back out. What are the long-term consequences of these tariffs? According to the Tax Foundation and other economic watchdogs, Trump's tariffs could shrink the U.S. GDP by as much as 0.4%. More than 300,000 full-time jobs are at risk of disappearing, many in sectors that once formed the backbone of the American economy. Prices are rising across the board. American households are expected to pay an average of $3,800 more per year due to inflated prices on imported goods. From groceries to electronics, these tariffs are hitting consumers hard. Inflation is climbing, and economists warn that if these trends continue, we could be heading straight into a recession. Industries that rely heavily on global imports, like manufacturing and agriculture, are already seeing shrinking profit margins and struggling to compete. Even sectors tied to the future, like renewable energy, are finding themselves hamstrung by increased costs and uncertain trade conditions. Internationally, the fallout is just as intense. Global partners aren't just upset, they're retaliating. China has announced a 34% counter-tariff effective April 10th. The European Union isn't far behind. Countries are fighting back with their own tariffs, forming new alliances, and turning away from the United States as a reliable trade partner. This is about more than dollars and cents. It's about diplomacy. For decades, America was seen as the anchor of global stability. That reputation is now hanging by a thread. Nations like France, Germany, and Canada have all expressed sharp disapproval. Some leaders have even gone as far as comparing these tariffs to economic warfare. And the diplomatic backlash is already reshaping global alliances. Mexico is strengthening its trade ties with the European Union. Canada is exploring deals with Asia. Countries are diversifying their trade portfolios, many of them actively moving away from the United States. This all echoes history in a haunting way. Remember the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930? It jacked up import taxes on over 20,000 goods in an attempt to protect American jobs and industries during the Great Depression. But instead, it triggered a global trade war and worsened the economic crisis. Sound familiar? Trump's tariffs are following a similar pattern. Though more targeted, focusing on steel, aluminum, and technology, the effects are comparable. Supply chains are disrupted, prices are up, international trust is down, and economists are already sounding the alarm about recession risks. So what's the political cost? Besides the economic and diplomatic damage, the tariffs are driving a wedge between the U.S. and its closest allies. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has openly declared the end of Canada's special relationship with the United States. French President Emmanuel Macron is urging European countries to suspend investments in the U.S. and form stronger coalitions within the EU instead. This pivot represents a dramatic shift in the global order. Countries are no longer waiting for the U.S. to lead. They're building new paths without it. This multipolar world is increasingly defined by collaboration between nations that once looked to Washington for direction. Back in the U.S., the resistance is growing stronger. Grassroots movements, once underestimated, are now central players in the fight to restore democratic norms and stabilize the country. From Wisconsin's Supreme Court race to national campaigns for economic justice and climate reform, these movements are proving that people power still works. They're organizing in neighborhoods, college campuses, churches, and union halls. They're challenging the status quo, holding leaders accountable, and reminding everyone that democracy is more than just voting. It's engagement, persistence, and solidarity. These grassroots efforts are also pushing back against the influence of corporate money and political elitism. In an era where billionaires bankroll campaigns and misinformation floods our news feeds, movements led by ordinary citizens are more crucial than ever. So where does all this leave us? The United States is at a crossroads. Trump's tariffs have set off a chain reaction, economically, politically, and diplomatically. The country faces rising inflation, job losses, fractured alliances, and a shaky global reputation. But at the same time, there's a counter-current of hope. A grassroots wave is rising. Voters are engaged. Communities are organizing. And victories like Susan Crawford's in Wisconsin show that change is not only possible, it's already happening. This is a defining moment. Will America double down on isolationist policies and economic brinkmanship? Or will it listen to the growing chorus demanding unity, accountability, and long-term stability? That's the question. And as always, the answer begins with us. Thank you for watching. If you liked this, let us know by giving us a comment below.